I'm going to read from The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, age 13 3/4, by Sue Townsend, and it's published by Penguin. Thursday, January 1st, Bank holiday in England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. These are my New Year's resolutions. 1. I will help the blind across the road. 2. I will hang my trousers up. 3. I will put the sleeves back on my records. 4. I will not start smoking. 5. I will stop squeezing my spots. 6. I will be kind to the dog. 7. I will help the poor and ignorant. 8. After hearing the disgusting noises from downstairs last night, I have vowed never to drink alcohol. My father got the dog drunk on cherry brandy at the party last night. If the RSPCA hear about it, he could get done. 8 days have gone by since Christmas Day, but my mother still hasn't worn the green Lurex apron I bought her for Christmas. She will get bath cubes next year. Just my luck, I've got a spot on my chin for the first day of the new year. Friday, January 2nd, Bank holiday in Scotland. Full moon. I felt rotten today. It's my mother's fault for singing My Way at 2 o'clock in the morning at the top of the stairs. Just my luck to have a mother like her. There is a chance my parents could be alcoholics. Next year I could be in a children's home. The dog got its own back on my father. It jumped up and knocked down his model ship, then ran into the garden with the rigging tangled in its feet. My father kept saying, 3 months' work down the drain, over and over again. The spot on my chin is getting bigger. It's my mother's fault for not knowing about vitamins. Saturday, January the 3rd. I shall go mad through lack of sleep. My father has banned the dog from the house, so it barked outside my window all night. Just my luck. My father shouted a swear word at it. If he's not careful, he will get done by the police for obscene language. I think the spot is a boil. Just my luck to have it where everyone can see it. I pointed out to my mother that I hadn't had any vitamin C today. She said, "Go and buy an orange then. This is typical." She still hasn't worn the Lurex apron. I will be glad to get back to school. Sunday, January 4th, 2nd after Christmas. My father has got the flu. I'm not surprised with the diet we get. My mother went out in the rain to get him a vitamin C drink, but as I told her, it's too late now. It's a miracle we don't get scurvy. My mother says she can't see anything on my chin, but this is guilt, because of the diet. The dog has run off because my mother didn't close the gate. I have broken the arm on the stereo. Nobody knows yet, and with a bit of luck, my father will be ill for a long time. He is the only one who uses it apart from me. No sign of the apron. Monday, January 5th. The dog hasn't come back yet. It is peaceful without it. My mother rang the police and gave a description of the dog. She made it sound worse than it actually is. Straggly hair over its eyes and all that. I really think the police have got better things to do than look for dogs, such as catching murderers. I told my mother this, but she still rang them. Serve her right if she was murdered because of the dog. My father is still lazing about in bed. He is supposed to be ill, but I notice he's still smoking. Nigel came round today. He's got a tan from his Christmas holiday. I think Nigel will be ill soon from the shock of the cold in England. I think Nigel's parents were wrong to take him abroad. He hasn't got a single spot yet. Tuesday, January 6th, Epiphany, new moon. The dog is in trouble. It knocked a meter reader off his bike and messed all the cards up. So now we will all end up in court, I expect. A policeman said we must keep the dog under control and asked how long it had been lame. My mother said it wasn't lame and examined it. There was a tiny model pirate trapped in its left front paw. The dog was pleased when my mother took the pirate out, and it jumped up the policeman's tunic with its muddy paws. My mother fetched a cloth from the kitchen, but it had strawberry jam on it where I'd wiped the knife, so the tunic was worse than ever. The policeman went then. I'm sure he swore. I could report him for that. I will look up epiphany in my new dictionary. Wednesday, January 7th. Nigel came round on his new bike this morning. It has got a water bottle, a mileometer, a speedometer, a yellow saddle and very thin racing wheels. It's wasted on Nigel. He only goes to the shops and back on it. If I had it, I would go all over the country and have an experience. My spot, or boil, has reached its peak. Surely it can't get any bigger. I found a word in my dictionary that describes my father. It is malingerer. He is still in bed, guzzling vitamin C. The dog is locked in the coal shed. Epiphany is something to do with 3 wise men. Big deal. Thursday, January 8th. Now my mother has got the flu. This means that I have to look after them both. Just my luck. I have been up and down the stairs all day. I cooked a big dinner for them tonight, 2 poached eggs with beans and tinned semolina pudding. It's a good job I wore the green lurex apron because the poached eggs escaped out of the pan and got all over me. I nearly said something when I saw they hadn't eaten any of it. They can't be that ill. I gave it to the dog in the coal shed. My grandmother is coming tomorrow, so I had to clean the burnt saucepans, then take the dog for a walk. It was 11:30 before I got to bed. No wonder I'm short for my age. I have decided against medicine for a career. Friday, January 9th. It was cough, cough, cough last night. If it wasn't one, it was the other. You'd think they'd show some consideration after the hard day I'd had. My grandma came and was disgusted with the state of the house. I showed her my room, which is always neat and tidy, and she gave me 50p. I showed her all the empty drink bottles in the dustbin, and she was disgusted. My grandma let the dog out of the coal shed. She said my mother was cruel to lock it up. The dog was sick on the kitchen floor. My grandma locked it up again. She squeezed the spot on my chin. It has made it worse. I told Grandma about the green apron, and Grandma said that she bought my mother a 100% acrylic cardigan every Christmas, and my mother had never, ever worn one of them. Saturday, January 10th. AM. Now the dog is ill. It keeps being sick, so the vet has got to come. My father told me not to tell the vet that the dog had been locked in the coal shed for 2 days. The vet has taken the dog away. He says he thinks it has got an obstruction and will need an emergency operation. My grandma has had a row with my mother and gone home. My grandma found the Christmas cardigans all cut up in the duster bag. It is disgusting when people are starving. Mr. Lucas from next door has been in to see my mother and father, who are still in bed. He brought a get well card and some flowers for my mother. My mother sat up in bed in a nightie that showed a lot of her chest. She talked to Mr. Lucas in a yucky voice. My father pretended to be asleep. Nigel brought his records round. He's into punk, but I don't see the point if you can't hear the words. Anyway, I think I'm turning into an intellectual. It must be all the worry. PM. I went to see how the dog is. It has had its operation. The vet showed me a plastic bag with lots of yucky things in it. There was a lump of coal, the fir tree from the Christmas cake, and the model pirates from my father's ship. One of the pirates was waving a cutlass, which must have been very painful for the dog. The dog looks a lot better. It can come home in 2 days. Worse luck. My father was having a row with my grandma on the phone about the empty bottles in the dustbin when I got home. Mr. Lucas was upstairs talking with my mother. When Mr. Lucas went, my father went upstairs and had an argument with my mother and made her cry. My father is in a bad mood. This means he's feeling better. I made my mother a cup of tea without her asking. This made her cry as well. You can't please some people. The spot is still there. Sunday, January 11th, first after Epiphany. Now I know I am an intellectual. I saw Malcolm Muggeridge on the television last night, and I understood nearly every word. It all adds up. A bad home, poor diet, not liking punk. I think I'll join the library and see what happens. It is a pity there aren't any more intellectuals living round here. Mr. Lucas wears corduroy trousers. but he's an insurance man. Just my luck. The first what after Epiphany? Monday, January 12th. The dog is back. It keeps licking its stitches, so when I'm eating, I sit with my back to it. My mother got up this morning to make the dog a bed to sleep in till it's better. It's made out of a cardboard box that used to contain packets of soap powder. My father said this would make the dog sneeze and burst its stitches, and the vet would charge even more to stitch it back up again. They had a row about the box. Then my father went on about Mr. Lucas. Though what Mr. Lucas has to do with a dog's bed is a mystery to me. Tuesday, January 13th. My father has gone back to work. Thank God. I don't know how my mother sticks him. Mr. Lucas came in this morning to see if my mother needed any help in the house. He's very kind. Mrs. Lucas was next door cleaning the outside windows. The ladder didn't look very safe. I've written to Malcolm Muggeridge, care of the BBC, asking him what to do about being an intellectual. I hope he writes back soon, because I'm getting fed up being one on my own. I have written a poem, and it only took me 2 minutes. Even the famous poets take longer than that. It is called The Tap, but it isn't really about a tap. It's very deep and about life and stuff like that. The Tap by Adrian. The tap drips and keeps me awake. In the morning there will be a lake. For the want of a washer the carpet will spoil. Then for another my father will toil. My father could snuff it while he is at work. Dad, fit a washer, don't be a Burke. I showed it to my mother, but she laughed. She isn't very bright. She still hasn't washed my PE shorts, and it is school tomorrow. She's not like the mothers on television. Wednesday, January 14th. Joined the library. Got Care of the Skin, Origin of Species, and a book by a woman my mother is always going on about. It's called Pride and Prejudice by a woman called Jane Austen. I could tell the librarian was impressed. Perhaps she's an intellectual, like me. She didn't look at my spot, so perhaps it's getting smaller. About time. Mr. Lucas was in the kitchen drinking coffee with my mother. The room was full of smoke. They were laughing, but when I went in, they stopped. Mrs. Lucas was next door cleaning the drains. She looks as if she's in a bad mood. I think Mr. and Mrs. Lucas have got an unhappy marriage. Poor Mr. Lucas. None of the teachers at school have noticed that I'm an intellectual. They'll be sorry when I'm famous. There is a new girl in our class. She sits next to me in geography. She's all right. Her name is Pandora, but she likes being called Box. Don't ask me why. I might fall in love with her. It's time I fell in love, after all. I am 13 3/4 years old.